We don't have too many announcements today, just that there will be this Friday. So, based on how we're going so far, the Ashir will be on Friday, inshallah. So, make sure if you do need to take some time off work, the program will be in Arabic in the morning. For the English, we will be doing a maqtal. It will be happening on the Thursday at night. So, during our night program, instead of doing a lecture, we will be doing the English maqtal. As a majlis, inshallah, an extended majlis. So whoever would like to come, ahla sahla. And also we look forward to your presence on the Ashir on the Friday, ma'jurin. We also have the old merchandise from last year, since subhanallah and smallah, our merchandise is selling very fast. There are lots of sizes that are no longer available. We do have some of the old merchandise if the brothers or sisters would like to check it out. We are selling them at discounted prices, so please feel free to go to the tables after the program and see if there's anything you like. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Brother Sheikh Mohammad al-Sha'ar for a lecture, Ma'juran, Masfuban, Bidhikri Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. اللهم اجعل ما نقوله ونفعله خالصا لوجهك الكريم. Before I go into the next lesson that we can learn from Ashura, which is the lesson of sacrifice, I would like to mention something very important and related to our worldview, because I see that Muslims struggle when it comes to knowing why Allah Azza wa Jal exists. What's the proof on Allah's existence? Because we all believe in the existence of Allah, because we were told so, because we feel Allah Azza wa Jal. But do we have a proof that we can give someone? And before we give it to someone, do we have a proof for our own self to know why Allah Azza wa Jal exists or no? Because we need to reach a point in our life that is different, that we need to draw a line, and then we say, okay, before this line, I was living in a certain way. And then after this line, after this point, I have to live in a different way. Because now I know that Allah Azza wa Jal, He exists. I know it in here, and I know it in here. No doubts. So I'm just going to share with you a very simple proof, but you need to write it down. You can grab your phones, paper, pen, whatever you want. You can write it down and just reflect upon it. Think upon it. Open it once a week and think and reflect upon it, because it's a solid, firm, strong, and easy proof at the same time. Tamam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. هلا I forgot my hijab today, so بالشوش اليوم. طيب, the proof. The first point is that we are limited. And the proof to that, the proof to the first point that we are limited, is that we all know that we're limited. We're limited in time, we're limited in space, we're limited in power, we're limited in knowledge, we're limited in everything. Haida, there's no doubt in this point, in the first point. We are limited. Let's go to the next question. But we are limited. Did we create ourselves, or did something else create us? You can go down. Did we create ourselves? Did something else create us? If we say we created ourselves, it doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? Because if we created ourselves, that means that we were existing in the first place and then we created ourselves, which doesn't make sense. It means that we were already existing and then we created ourselves, so it doesn't make sense. So there's no way that we created our own self. Tamam? You can find other answers too, but I just want to keep it as simple as possible, and this answer is enough. Just reflect upon it. If you created yourself, that means you were existing in the first place. طيب. That means somebody else created us. Anything, whatever you want to call it. We don't call it Allah Azza wa Jal yet. We just call it something else created us. This something else, is it limited or unlimited? If it's limited, we can repeat what we said already. If it's limited, that means that it couldn't have created itself. Because if it's limited, did it create itself? Did somebody else create it? If it created itself, it doesn't make sense. If somebody else created it, let's go to that somebody else. So we keep going to that somebody else. Type that somebody else. Type that somebody else. Or actually, before we go to that somebody else, if we say it's unlimited, that means khalas, we have something that's unlimited that created us all. And this is what we want. Unlimited in everything. Unlimited in existence, unlimited in power, unlimited in knowledge, unlimited in wisdom, unlimited in everything. And this unlimited being, no one created it because it's unlimited. It always was and it will always be. Okay? طيب. But let's say something else that is limited created us. Just how like I was saying هلا. طيب. This something else, did it create itself or did somebody else create it? If it created itself, it doesn't make sense, like I said. طيب. If something else created it, this something else, is it limited or unlimited? And from here we can keep going. Okay, same structure. If we say something else that is limited, we will keep going and we will never find a stop. We will go towards infinity, saying something else created us, that something else is limited. And that something else that is limited was created by something else that is limited. And so on, we will never reach a point. We will keep going till infinity, which means that we cannot exist. Because there needs to be a starting point. This starting point needs to be unlimited. If we keep going and following the chain of limited and somebody else, limited and somebody else, limited and somebody else, we will never stop. If we never stop, that means no one started creation, yani we cannot exist, but we do exist. Halla, it's very easy, هو خلص, that's the proof. It's very easy, it's very simple if you write it down, but for you to internalize it, to get it, to catch it, it needs some time. Because you're going to think about it, because it's something that you usually don't think of. Infinite and limited beings, right? And if you keep going with the chain to the limited existence, شو يعني? What does it mean? So you have to sit down, look at the paper, and just keep following it. I'm just going to summarize it real quick, okay, just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Limited being, this is me and you. Somebody else created us, or we created ourselves. If we created ourselves, it doesn't make sense. So somebody else created us. That somebody else, is it limited or unlimited? If it's unlimited, alhamdulillah, this is what we call Allah Azza wa Jal. Others might call it nature, others might call it dark energy, whatever they want to call it, we don't care. But it's something else that created us that is unlimited. طيب, if we say no, it's limited, then we keep going. That limited being, did it create itself or did something else create it? If it created itself, it doesn't make sense, so something else. That something else, is it limited or unlimited? If we keep going and following the limited, it means that we never came into existence because no one started. Hala, let me give you an analogy. It's like us standing all in a line, and I say, I'm not gonna walk until the one next to me walks. And he says, I'm not gonna walk until the next one to me walks. And that one says, I'm not gonna walk until the next one to me walks. And so on. And it doesn't stop. That means I will never walk because I'm waiting on an infinite chain for it to start walking, but they will never walk because everyone says, I'm waiting on the one next to me to walk. So I will never walk. But the fact is that I'm walking right now. That means that the one next to me, he started walking, and the one next to him started walking. That means somebody started this chain. And that somebody, that something that started the chain is the unlimited being. That always was, that cannot be created, which we call Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay, if you wrote it down, or if you're watching the stream, just give it a thought, reflect upon it, because this is something that you're gonna catch, and then the next day you're gonna think it doesn't make sense. Then you read it again, and then you're gonna catch it. And then it's gonna go, and then you're gonna catch it. Until akhir shay, it's gonna settle, khalas. But it does need some time, I'm speaking out of experience, so it does need some time. You're gonna catch it, and then it's gonna go away. But you can think of it and reflect upon it. Inshallah, you will have your answer on why Allah Azza wa Jal exists, and you will have a proof to His existence. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Today's lesson that we want to speak about from Ashura is the lesson of sacrifice. And it's one of the hardest lessons that we can learn from Ashura. When we speak about sacrifice, we can mention a few stories and look at a few stations from Ashura. I'm going to start off with a story with a man who was on his way to his house, on his home. He was traveling, and then he met the caravan of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And Imam al-Hussein told him his intentions. He told him, we're going to Karbala, we're going to revolt, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need people who aid us, who help us. That man, he had family, he had plans, he wanted to live his life, but at the same time, he loved Imam al-Hussein. He knew who Imam al-Hussein was, but he couldn't go with Imam al-Hussein. So what did he do? He offered him his horse. He told him, I can't go with you, but take my horse. My horse is a fast horse, so if you want to catch any fleeing enemy, you will catch them. And if somebody tries to catch you, no one will catch you. I can give you my horse, I can't go with you. But the Imam doesn't need his horse. He told him, ما دمت بخلت علينا بنفسك فلا حاجة لنا بفرسك. If you're not willing to sacrifice yourself for us, then we don't need your horse. He wasn't willing to sacrifice his nafs. And in a little bit, we're going to speak about the stages of sacrifice. On the other hand, if we look at al-Banin, alayha salam, al-Banin, as you all know, she sacrificed 4 sons. She didn't sacrifice 1. She didn't sacrifice 2. She didn't sacrifice 3. She sacrificed all of them. Yani no one would have blamed al-Banin if she sacrificed 1 or 2 or 3. Like, khalas, just keep 1 to yourself. It's okay. You need 1. You're going to grow old. You're a woman. Your husband passed away. Just keep 1 to yourself. No. She sacrificed all 4. Not only did she sacrifice all 4, Mahiyya in the first place, when Imam Ali alayhi salam wanted to beget children, he told his brother, I need a wife that I can beget children from to aid and help Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he got married, he had this intention. I want children that are going to help my son, Imam al-Hussein, in Karbala. And I'm sure when he proposed to al-Banin, he told her that I want to marry you because I want to beget children to help Imam al-Hussein. That was her taklif. That was her duty. And hala, we're not females. I'm not a mother, and I don't know how it feels, but for a mother to go through these stages of pregnancy, to give birth, to deliver, to raise kids, only for them to die in Karbala. That was her duty, that was her taklif. And look where she is now. We remember her every year. La al-Banin alayha salam. So she raised her children just to die in Karbala, to sacrifice themselves for Imam al-Hussein and for the path of truth. That was her duty. She fulfilled her duty, alhamdulillah. And this is how she raised her kids. This is how she raised her sons. Do we raise our kids for the love of Imam al-Mahdi? Do we tell them that we need to prepare you to be ready for Imam Mahdi when he reappears? You need to be one of his soldiers? Alhamdulillah, we teach them dua al-faraj. But do we give them this worldview? Tell them, look, there's a plan. We're living 50, 60 years. Our Imam is going to come. We need to be ready. Do we give that to them in a way where they grow up having this in mind? Wala, do we tell them, yalla, you have to be a doctor, engineer, you have to make money, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4? We don't. But al-Banin alayhi salam, she raised her sons and her children in a way where khalas, their main goal, their main taklif is to be there for the Imam of their time, which is Imam al-Hussein. That's why Abu al-Fadl Abbas, he never called him Akhi, Sayyidi, even though he is his brother. Sayyidi. This is how al-Banin alayhi salam raised Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. طيب, even if we look at the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, they all made sacrifices. We hear about Zuhair ibn al-Qayn. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn was a very wealthy man. He was very well known. He was like Allah would call him a businessman. When he heard about Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he left everything and he went and stood on the side of Imam al-Hussein. And we find in Karbala that everyone made sacrifices. Aslan, every group of people, they made their own sacrifice. We will find that the little children, babies, made the sacrifice. Young kids, women, men, everyone made a sacrifice. But Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam made the greatest sacrifice in Karbala and in Ashura. Because if we look at the types of sacrifice, we have 3 different types of sacrifice. The first one is for you to sacrifice what you own and what you have. Okay, your money, your house, your car, your horse. This is the lowest type of sacrifice, the easiest type of sacrifice. And we struggle with that type of sacrifice. You tell somebody, just sacrifice a little bit of your time to come attend the majalis. I'm busy. Sacrifice a few dollars to help the center, the markaz. I don't have money. The first type of sacrifice we're not willing to do. طيب. Then we have a higher level of sacrifice, which is for you to sacrifice your own nafs, your own life. It's a higher type of sacrifice. Because you can reach a point where you're like, okay, I want to sacrifice myself. I can bear that. I can do that. And usually, we find that some of us are willing to sacrifice something for other people. Yani, you will find that a husband, he would take off a jacket and give it to his wife in order for her to be warm, and he can take the cold. It's okay. A mother will feed her children and she will hunger. It's okay. She doesn't have a problem. She sacrifices, but when sacrifice comes to herself. So the second stage is for somebody to sacrifice his own nafs and his own self. But this is not the highest form of sacrifice yet. The highest form, the highest type, the hardest type of sacrifice is for you to sacrifice those who you love for the path of truth. Because like I said, sometimes you're willing to sacrifice. It's like, khalas, I can do that. Ma bi'assir. I'll handle that. But for you to see those who you love struggle, go through a hard time, get killed, this is something else. If you're willing to sacrifice those who you love, this is the highest form and the highest type of sacrifice, which Imam al-Hussein presented to us in Karbala. And this is why he took his whole family. He took all of them. He took the woman, he took the children. Because Imam al-Hussein knew that Ashura wouldn't be Ashura unless he takes them all. Somebody asked me the other day, why did Imam Hussein take the woman and children with him? Because Ashura is not going to be Ashura without the children and the woman. Because Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam did his part and Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam did the other part. Without Zainab alayhi salam, the tragedy of Ashura would have stayed in Karbala. we would have not known anything about Ashura. So they had an important role in delivering the message, in fulfilling the message. This is why he took Zainab alayhi salam, even though no one used to see the shadow of Zainab. Because now we struggle with females. They say, I want to be active in society, I want to help my community, I want to be there for my community. You can do that. Sayyidah Zahra did that, Sayyidah Zainab did that. But when the right time comes, you can do that. No one used to see Sayyidah Zainab. I'm sure some of the companions didn't know anything about Sayyidah Zainab. But when the day came, when she had to take responsibility, she did. And she had a big role in Islam. But when the time came, Sayyidah Zainab was 55 years old at that time. So her time came and she was responsible and she did her duty. And even when we look at Ali al-Akbar and how Imam al-Hussein treated him, we see how much Imam al-Hussein was ready to sacrifice. He was willing to sacrifice his son, his beloved son, and this is why he treated him differently. Yani if we look at the companions, when they would come take permission from the Imam, because no one's going to go on the battlefield without the permission of the Imam, they would ask him, أَتَأْذَنُ لَنَا يَبْنَ بِنْتِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ? He would tell them, no, don't go, don't go. Then later on, he would tell them, okay, go. But when Ali al-Akbar came and asked for permission, he told him, go, immediately. He didn't discuss it. Because this is how a real leader behaves. My own son, I'm going to send to the battlefield. I'm willing to sacrifice him. He was the first one from Bani Hashim to go on the battlefield and fight. This is how a leader is. Halla, I know it's easily said, but it's so hard to be done. And we're speaking about this. But if you actually sit down and reflect upon it, if you think about your siblings, your kids, whoever it is, would you be able to sacrifice them for the path of truth or no? These stations we need to have a look at. Yani, inshallah, on the 10th of Muharram, when we listen to the tragedy from A to Z, just when you listen to these stations, when you reach these points, just try to reflect and put yourself in the position of Imam al-Hussein and see how he acted and how he behaved. Would we have done the same or no? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And when we speak about sacrificing the beloved ones, we see a similarity between Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alih. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alih, when he had the event of Mubahala with the Christians. The event of Mubahala is an event where two parties gather under the sky and they pray that, Ya Allah, anzil adhabaka ala al-zalimina minna. They would say, Ya Allah, send down your punishment on the wrongdoers amongst us. They wouldn't say, just send your punishment on them. Like the first party is not going to pray against the second party. It's just, they're going to both say, أنزل عذابك على الظالمين منا. If we are wrongdoers, then punish us. If they are wrongdoers, punish them. But you send your adhab upon one of us, whoever is zalim. Correct? So these Christians, when the event was about to happen, they said, if Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alih, they didn't say sallallahu alayhi wa alih, I'm saying sallallahu alayhi wa alih. If Muhammad comes with his family members, then we're not going to do mubahala. Because then he's sadiq. Because then he's saying the truth. But if he comes with his companions and friends, then we will do mubahala. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he came, he showed up with Ali, Fatima, Al-Hassan, and Al-Hussein. So the Christians, what did they say? Like, khalas, we're not going to do mubahala. Because this man is willing to sacrifice his family members. He's willing to sacrifice the most dear to him. So akid he's upon truth. For sure he's upon truth. We're not going to do mubahala. They said, Wallah, inna nara wujuhan law aqsamu ala Allah an yuzila al-jibal la azalaha. Like we see faces, if they ask Allah Azza wa Jal to remove the mountains, He will remove the mountains for them. So we're not going to do mubahala. So the Prophet made a point. He took the most beloved to him to that event. This is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam did. He took the most beloved to him to that event. طبعا they ended in different results, right? But this is Allah's part. We do our part and Allah Jal does His part. I mentioned in one of the lectures, we do our taklif. We do what is needed from us. And Allah Azza wa Jal takes care of the rest. And this is the beautiful part about doing your duty and your taklif. And this is why the poet, when he describes the situation of Imam al-Hussein on the 10th of Muharram, he says the following. It's not a phrase that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said, but it's a beautiful poet that describes the situation of Imam al-Hussein. He says, إلهي تركت الخلق طرا في هواك وأيتمت العيال لكي أراك فلو قطعتني في الحب إربا لما مال الفؤاد إلى سواك. O Allah, I have left the world for you and orphaned my children so that I could be with you. So if I am cut into pieces for the love of you, my heart would not turn to anyone but you. He's taking his family. He's telling him, Khalas, I'm sacrificing the most dear. I'm sacrificing everything that I have. And because Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed everything that he has, everything that he owns, Allah Azza wa Jal rewarded him with everlasting remembrance. Because in order to receive everything, you need to sacrifice everything. You know how they say that needing nothing attracts everything? This is one of the laws, universal laws that we have. If you don't want something, just let it go. It will come to you. Some people just keep going after dunya their whole life, 50 years, 60 years after dunya, dunya, dunya. They are running and dunya is running ahead of them. Hey, where are you going? You've been running for 60 years, 70 years. Just let go. Let go of the dunya and the dunya will come to you. Don't care about the dunya and the dunya will come to you. Khalas, sacrifice, give, do your part. What's meant to reach you, it will reach you. If you try to get it on your own, you're not going to get it. I always tell them that Allah Azza wa Jal, He's the one who owns the hearts. Who am I to think that I can modify and adjust a few hearts and take them and make them love me? Allah Azza wa Jal, He owns the hearts. It's always the relationship between me and Allah Azza wa Jal. I'm not going to make anyone love me. I have to go to Allah Azza wa Jal, fix my relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, and then the hearts, He will move them. He will send them to me if there's any benefit in that. This is why Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he left Hajar and Ismail in that desert back in the days, he said, Waj'al. Who is he talking to? Ibrahim is talking to Allah Azza wa Jal. He's telling him, Waj'al, Inta, you make. Waj'al af'idatan min al-nas tahwi ilayhim. You, O Allah, you make hearts of people, the hearts of people yearn towards them. You make that. I can't make this. Allah Azza wa Jal, you own the hearts. That's why we have in the narrations, Man aslaha ma baynahu wa bayna Allah, aslaha Allah ma baynahu wa bayna al-nas. You fix your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, and He will fix all other affairs. He will take care of everything else. This is why we say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no power except the power of Allah Azza wa Jal. We can't make anything on our own. Our scholars say, La mu'athira fil wujud illa Allah. No one has any impact in existence except Allah Azza wa Jal. So don't think that you can make a change in this world without Allah's permission, whatever it is. If He cares for you, He's going to be with you. But sometimes He gives you because He doesn't care. Because He doesn't care. Allah Azza wa Jal gives everyone. He gives the kuffar in this dunya and He gives the believers in this dunya because He doesn't care about this dunya. So the point is that we should always go back to Allah Azza wa Jal. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal. And then He's going to push people towards you. This is why the verse in the Quran says, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضُهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ etc. Like if Allah Azza wa Jal wouldn't push people towards you, then we'd fall into chaos. Khalas. But Allah Azza wa Jal, He pushes people towards you. He pushes them. So it's Allah Azza wa Jal who's taking care of everything. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Hala, the lesson that we need to take from what I spoke about is what are we willing to sacrifice? Nahna, we're stuck in the first level of sacrifice. We're not willing to sacrifice an hour a day. We're not willing to sacrifice something that we own. how are we going to sacrifice ourselves? Are we willing to sacrifice dear ones or no? Where are we on that scale? If the Imam of my time comes and tells me, Ya Muhammad al-Sha'ir, what are you willing to sacrifice? What am I going to tell him? Am I willing to sacrifice? I have plans. Do they go against the plan of the Imam or no? If he tells me, Khalas, you have to stop this and now you're going to do this. Would I do that or would I find an excuse? I spoke about excuses a lot. I'm not going to repeat that. But do I have an answer? What am I willing to sacrifice for Islam, for religion? Because this is what Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam taught us. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he sacrificed himself for Islam, to save Islam. So what are we willing to sacrifice for Islam? What are we willing to sacrifice to save Islam? Because Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he's not the final destination. Imam al-Hussein is supposed to take us to the final destination, which is Allah Azza wa Jal only. Halla, we have this misconception, يعني. Some people think that khalas, Imam al-Hussein is the final destination. It's wrong. We find that people only come and attend majalis to do latmiyyah. And that's it. You don't see them. They only come to the latmiyyah. They don't even come to the lecture. They don't come to the majlis. They just come to do latmiyyah. Tab, why? Are you doing that for Imam al-Hussein? If you're doing that for Imam al-Hussein, this is not what Imam al-Hussein wants from you. Just to do latmiyyah and you don't pray? You do latmiyyah and you do not fast? Is that what Imam al-Hussein stood for? Imam al-Hussein came with values and teachings. You love Imam al-Hussein? Then you have to be like Imam al-Hussein. How was Imam al-Hussein? He didn't take his prayer lightly. So if you're coming for Imam al-Hussein and for the love of Imam al-Hussein, inshallah everyone is like that. When you hit your chest, you're hitting it for the love of Imam al-Hussein. Then do what Imam al-Hussein did. Be like Imam al-Hussein. Because sometimes we fall into this hidden shirk, our ego. We come to satisfy our own desire. I like to do latmiyyah, so that's why I do latmiyyah. It's a nice environment, it's a nice atmosphere, it's a nice vibe. So I come here, I do latmiyyah. Difference between ibadah and ubudiyya. I spoke about this. Sometimes you worship your own self and your own ego. You do things just to satisfy your own desires. It's wrong. It's dangerous. La. You come, you do latmiyyah for Allah Azza wa Jal. Because He wants you to mourn Imam al-Hussein. He wants you to grieve over Imam al-Hussein. That's why. If you come, you're like, khalas, I'll just do latmiyyah because I love Imam al-Hussein, I love Imam Ali. Okay, love is good, but love is not enough. You are a Shi'i, Shi'atuna man ittaqallah. You need to have taqwa. The Shia have certain attributes that they need to practice and have and develop. Otherwise, you're not a Shia. If you're a Shia on your ID, khair inshallah. Allah's not going to ask you for your ID on the Day of Judgment. He's going to look into your hearts, your intentions. If you love Imam al-Hussein, you come, you do latmiyyah, you listen to the majlis, you pray, you stand for the values that Imam al-Hussein stood for. This is how you're a real lover of Imam al-Hussein. طيب. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. When we speak about sacrifice, and please pay attention to this point because it's very important. It should change your view on sacrificing things. Yani if you didn't listen to anything that I just said, just listen to this part. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. When we speak about sacrificing, in reality, we are giving what we do not own. If I was to ask you what's sacrifice, you would say, for me to give something that I own for a higher purpose, for a higher cause. Correct? طيب, what if I tell you that in reality, you do not own anything? You do not even own your own self. This body that you have, you do not own it. Your soul, you do not own it. So if Allah Azza wa Jal asks you to sacrifice something that you think you own, what's holding you back from sacrificing it? What's holding you back from sacrificing your body, your soul? But you don't own it. It's not yours. It's like me lending you money and then I ask you to give it back to me. You can't hold on to it and be like, but this is mine. It's not yours. It's mine. When we say, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, what does it mean? We belong to Allah. Haqiqatan, we belong to Allah. In the real sense, we belong to Allah. We are His. We belong to Allah. And to Him we will return. We say it all the time. But do we internalize it? We say, Inna lillah. Not like just how somebody owns a car. Not just how like somebody is a president of a country, we elect him, he's the president. We voted for him to be a president. صح? When his time is up, no one even rates him, no one looks at him. Khalas, he's gone. When he's in charge, he's the respected president. When he's not, he's gone. Allah Azza wa Jal, He owns existence and everything in existence in the real matter. He owns it. We didn't elect Allah to be Allah Azza wa Jal. He is the real owner of everything. So He owns this dunya, He owns the skies and the heavens and the earth and the bodies and everything. He owns everything. So in reality, we're giving what we do not own. It's not a real sacrifice. It's not a real sacrifice. But Allah Azza wa Jal, He's generous. He's treating us like our body is our body. He's treating us like our soul is our soul. So what does He say in the Quran? إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة يقاتلون في سبيل الله فيقتلون ويقتلون وعدا عليه حقا في التوراة والإنجيل والقرآن ومن أوفى بعهده من الله فاستبشروا ببيعكم الذي بايعتم به وذلك هو الفوز العظيم. Verily Allah has purchased, you don't own yourself, has purchased of the believers their lives and their properties. He's still treating you like it's yours, and He's asking you for it. And He's giving you something in reward. He doesn't have to give you anything in reward, but He's telling you that I have purchased of the believers their lives and their properties for the price that theirs shall be the paradise. Yours is paradise. Give me your nafs, your soul, your body, what you own, sacrifice that for me, and I will give you paradise in reward. He's treating us like we own our nafs, but we don't. They fight in Allah's cause, so they kill and they are killed. We say in our Lebanese culture, like Allah huwa li ata wa Allah li biyakhud, right? He's the one that gave, and He's the one who's going to take away. He gave you, and He can take whenever He wants. This is Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? So when we sacrifice, when you're paying $50 to the mosque, to the center for Islam, for anything, just keep that in mind. He's the one that gave you, and He's the one that's asking you to give back. So don't be childish like a little kid that you bought a bag of chips for, and he tells you, no, it's mine. But you bought it for him. If you didn't buy it for him, he would never had this bag of chips. If he tells you, no, it's mine, you're going to laugh at him. Yallah, it's okay. He thinks it's his. You bought it for him. Allah Jal gave you everything. So if He asks you to give back, just give back. Because He owns it in reality. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The problem is that sometimes we just zoom in too much into life and the details of life. When we zoom in too much into our life, we forget the journey. We forget the beginning and the ending. We're just focused on the now too much that we forget the purpose that we were created for. And then we think that we have problems. We think that, no, I cannot sacrifice this. I cannot give this. I cannot do this. But in reality, if we just zoomed out, we'd recognize that this is actually not so hard to do. It's not so hard to sacrifice. It's not so hard to give. We just need to zoom out. You can test yourself, each and every one of you can make that test. If I ask you, just imagine that you go to the doctor and he tells you you have an incurable disease, you're going to die in a month. Then you do your calculations once again. You look at what was bothering you, what you thought was a problem, actually appears to not be a problem. Wallah, I want to lose some weight, ما بعرف شو, gym, like it's bothering me, it's giving me a hard time, depression, whatever. If the doctor tells you you're going to die in a month, is it still going to concern you? No. So it's not a real problem. Don't make things bigger than they are. Sometimes it's just something, okay, it's good to have, it's good to achieve. But what are your real problems? Zoom out. Focus on what really matters and leave the side things aside. Put them aside. They're not that important. Focus on what really matters. In order to do that, you need to zoom out. Because now everyone tells you, you have to do this, you have to go there, you have to participate in 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're worried, and then you overthink, and then you have problems, you have depression, ما بعرف شو. All right? Just zoom out and redo your calculations in order for you to understand how short life is, what your real purpose is, what life is about, and use that time wisely. I want to finish off with a story that they say about Isa alayhi salam. The story goes as follows, and it just helps us to understand how short life is. هلا Nabi Isa, we call him al-Masih as well. Masih comes from the word Saha, Messiah in English, which means to travel. He used to travel a lot. That's why they called him Al-Masih. So it is said that on one of his journeys, while he was traveling, he passed by a man who was worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. Maybe he was in prostration, in ruku'ah, I have no idea. However, it is said that he was 300 years old. Back in the days, they used to live longer than now. The Quran says about Nuh alayhi salam that he lived 950 years, or that he did da'wah 950 years. He lived more than 2,000 years. It's okay. We have narrations that Salman al-Farisi lived for 300 years. Shuraih al-Qadi, like I mentioned, lived for 120 years. So back in the days, they used to live longer. So when he passed by him, he didn't give it much thought. No, khair, inshallah, he's praying. Let me just move on. Then when he was done with his journey, on his way back, he saw this man still in prostration, still worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. So he thought to himself, let me ask him, like, what's the matter? What's going on? What is he doing? So he just stopped. He told him, Ya Abdullah, may I ask you a question? So he stopped his ibadah, his act of worship. He told him, sure. He told him, when I passed by this area a while ago, I saw you worshipping Allah and in prostration and so on and so forth. And now I'm coming back and I still see you in the very same position. So what's the matter? He told him, Ya Nabi Allah, you know, life is short. I want to make the most out of it. I want to be close to my God. I want to worship Him and so on. So Nabi Isa looked at him and he told him, what if I tell you that there will be a time where people won't even live 100 years, yet they will spend most of their times in worldly efforts, dunya. He looked at him and he told him, Wallahi, لو أدركت أهل ذلك الزمان لقضيت عمري في سجدة واحدة. He told him, by Allah, if I was to live in that time, I would spend my whole life in one prostration. Allah, I'm not asking you to spend your whole life in one prostration. I don't do that myself. At least pray 5 times a day. شوي دعاء, شوي Quran. It's enough, yani. Know what life is about. That's enough. I mentioned this story just to tell you like how short life is. Allah, we think, you know, if it's so long, but you see how fast time is going, right? Even one of a quote, yani, that they say is, when a baby is born, right? We do adhan and iqama, but there's no prayer. We just do adhan and iqama in the ears of the baby. And when somebody dies, we pray salat al-mayyit, but there's no adhan and no iqama. So they say, see how short life is? That adhan and iqama when he was born belongs to his death, to that salah when he dies. This is how short life is. Because as you know, when you want to pray, when you say adhan and iqama, you have to pray right after that. Anyway, just if we zoom out, it's going to help us understand life, see how short life is, recognize what's really important, and that is going to help us make sacrifices if needed. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us the wisdom and the strength in order to recognize the reality of this life and in order for us to sacrifice whenever He asks us to make these sacrifices. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. The time has now come. Our master is weak, with no strength left in his body. The Maqtal narrates now he can no longer stand with whatever strength he had left. ثم رفع رأسه إلى السماء. Our master lifted his head towards the sky and he said, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. These are the final moments of Abu Abdullah. Now the wolves are around our master, yet because he's from the Banu Hashim, they're afraid to come forward. So for a little while they're waiting to see what Abu Abdullah will do. ثم كروا إليه. Now that they see he's lying on a bed of arrows, the enemies of Allah make their way towards Abu Abdullah. On the apparent, Abbas has gone, Ali Akbar has gone. In the tents of the Ahl Haram, the men are not left. Now if you go towards the tents of Abu Abdullah in the Mukhayyam, all the elderly men have gone, all the adult men have gone. If Abu Abdullah wanted to call out Hal min Nasrin Yansurna, there is no one left in the camp for Hussein. Even his 6-month-old has gone on the cause of Abu Abdullah. But there's some commotion atop the Tell Zainabiyya. What's going on? From the top of the hill, his sister is watching. But with her there's a 6-year-old and he's restless. The 6-year-old son of Imam al-Mujtaba is watching his uncle surrounded. Abdullah ibn Hassan, the brother of Qasim, has been left behind, and he feels left behind. He's looking out onto the battlefield. He says, no, Abbas has gone for my uncle. My cousin Ali Akbar has gone for my uncle. Even my own brother Qasim has laid down his life for my uncle. Can I remain and watch my uncle in this state? And he says, they stand and they stare. This sight I can't bear. On this day I also want to have my share. Abdullah tries to make his way. فلهقته زينب لتحبسه. Zainab grips onto his hand. I can't allow my 6-year-old nephew to go towards the plains of Karbala. فامتنع امتناعا شديدا. The 6-year-old is restless. He says, Zainab, don't hold on to me. Zainab, set me free. Uncle has fallen on arrows, don't you see? He gets out of the clutches of his Aunt Zainab. He runs towards his uncle. He's roaring. This 6-year-old is not like any other 6-year-old. He says, وَيْلَكَ يَا ابْنَ الْخَبِيثَ أَتَقْتُلُ عَمِّي. O wretched man, do you dare raise your hand against my uncle while I am watching? So long as Abdullah is here for his uncle, don't you dare approach Hussein. That Mal'oon Bahr ibn Ka'b raised his sword. La ilaha illallah. They were waiting for the moment that the son of Asadullah would fall to the ground. Then these cowards came forward. Brothers and sisters, Abu Abdullah is a grown man. On the battlefield, when you want to strike a grown man, you strike with your full force. Abdullah comes to save his uncle. Abdullah has no sword. Abdullah has no spear. Abdullah has no shield. He says, I'm also his son. The brothers are one. I'm Abdullah, inheritor of Hassan. He says, uncle, I don't have a shield. My hands will be a shield for you. He throws his hands in front of his uncle Hussein. Now you know what happens. Bahr, that Mal'oon, wants to strike the uncle, but the nephew has put his hands in front of his uncle. When the sword strikes the arms of the 6-year-old, the hands don't suffer completely. مُعَلَّقَةً عَلَى الْجِلْدِ. His hands are hanging from his skin. La ilaha illallah. When any of the ashab would fall or be struck, they knew this is the time to call out your last salam on the son of Zahra. When Zuhair fell, when Habib fell, they called out As-salamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. But when the nephew of Hussein fell into his lap, his call is something else. When the 6-year-old fell, Fanada, Ya Ammah, in pain. He can't bear the pain. He said, oh uncle, they have struck me. Abu Abdullah tries to console him. He says, Abdullah, your grandfather is waiting for you. Be patient a few more moments. Soon Rasulullah will quench your thirst at Kawthar. It's easier said than done. Just moments ago, Ya Hussein, a 6-month-old Abdullah Radhi was in your arms. Now Harmala has come towards Hussein with the force meant for a man. He pulls back the arrow. Now a 6-year-old Abdullah is in the lap of his uncle. When the arrow pierces Abdullah, the Maqtal narrates, it is such that Abdullah sticks to his uncle. Ya Abu Abdullah, enemies of God, get away from my Mawla. Don't you know he is the son of Lady Zahra? Enemies of God, get away from my Mawla. Don't you know he is Zahra. My arms are your shield, the last stand of Mujtaba Sayyidi Hussein. Ya Aba Abdullah, you yourself were young, perhaps about 6 years old. You can remember you were with your brother, the father of this Abdullah. These scenes I know can never leave your mind. When that Mal'oon came to separate your mother from Amir al-Mu'mineen, she was holding on to Ali, Ya Allah. She was holding on to the Aba of Ali. That Mal'oon called out, separate Fatima from her husband. La ilaha illallah. With such force they hit the arm of your mother. Sallallahu alaykum ya ahla bayt an-nubuwwah. Sallallahu alaykum ya Aba Abdullah. Allow the thawab of this majlis to go to the Anbiya, the A'immah, the Awliya, your own marhumin who have passed away in the past year, the Shuhada of Islam. With the barakah of a Fatiha, before that allowed salawat. Dear brothers, we'll stand for the Lathmiyah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. First we'll recite the Ziyarat Warith, and then we'll stand for a few minutes of Lathmiyah. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث علي أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها، ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي والهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآله